We're going to be talking about the Mormon Cricket. Is it a major victory for Satan? I love this picture. I love crickets.
It's great. It looks like a trailer from the movie The Beginning of the End, I think it was.
It kind of does. I made this
Peter
with
Graves.
AI. Yeah. Great. So I don't know if you guys are familiar. I'm sure you are, but I don't know if all the viewers and listeners are familiar with the story of the crickets and the seagulls. When the LDS saints were first planting their crops, they were first in the valley, and the crops were being eaten by crickets. It was a desperate situation. They needed these crops. They had to harvest them and save them to get through the winter. They prayed. I'm guessing, probably fasted. They always fast. And what happened? A whole bunch of seagulls, a flock of seagulls came in and started devouring the crickets, throwing them up, eating them again, and saved at least a portion of the crops. It's an incredibly inspiring story that we were all told. On the left there's a painting by the wonderful Minerva Teichert. There's, someone praising because the seagulls have come to the rescue. There's even a statue on Temple Square. I don't know if you guys were aware of that. You can see that on the right-hand side where there's a golden seagull because he saved the saints. And of course, I learned the story in the 80s when I was in Sunday school. There was a little confusion then because they kept talking about a flock of seagulls coming to the rescue. Of course, not the band. I want to make that clear. That's a picture of the band flock of seagulls right there. No, these were actual seagulls that were saving the crops. Yeah, I knew you would laugh at that, RFM. Yep, there you go.
There it is. Beginning of the end. It's the crickets. The crickets are coming, I'm telling you. And they're not just eating seagulls. They're eating people now.
They need giant seagulls to take care of those. So anyway, a very inspiring story. So the problem, of course, with it, like most of the stories that we learn and we're inspired by, is that it's not true, most likely. I gathered a few little things off the internet. It says, because this event receives virtually little attention at the time it supposedly happened, meaning nobody mentioned it back in the day, students of Mormon history have concluded that this account may be nothing more than folklore, right? For example, nowhere in the journals of John Taylor, Parley P. Pratt, or in any other reliable source for the time is it mentioned any instance of the spectacular crop rescue by cricket-eating seagulls. So again, nobody talked about it back then as the event that we all learned about it, this incredible miracle. The now famous cricket scourge and the seagulls, which had eaten the crickets and saved some of the crops, had occurred during May and June, and during the general epistle of the first presidency in April of the next year wasn't mentioned at all. And cricket and grasshopper plagues are common terrors for many years in Utah. And this is true. If you've ever read Little House on the Prairie, which I read the whole series every year, it's my favorite series aside from Harry Potter, crickets are everywhere. They're always eating the crops and birds are always coming to the rescue. So whether it was inspired or not, divine, that's up to your interpretation. And so it says, although little was said about the role of the gulls in saving the crops at the time, the inspirational aspects of the episode were emphasized over time until it became regarded as a unique incident in Mormon history. Such an interpretation ignores the fact that gulls and other birds returned regularly each spring to the Mormon settlement, devouring crickets and grasshoppers, worms, etc. So it seems like this is something that always happened, but because the saints were new, they're like, oh my God, it's God. So anyway, I tell this story because this is such a well-known story that the cricket has become known as the Mormon Cricket. Now, it's not just a nickname. It's not just what we here in Utah call it. This is in Journals of Insects. It's actually named the Mormon Cricket, right? It's a beloved cricket. Can we say that? It is. So, a bill before the legislature. Here is the title. The M word is a no-no. So let's rename the Mormon Cricket, says a Utah lawmaker. The Anabras simplex doesn't know it is the subject of a new legislation. Neither does the insect know that some consider its name a victory for Satan.
Rebecca,
yes.
Can you go back a second?
Sure.
Am I mistaken, or is that cricket wearing clothes?
Of course it is. I made all the little Mormon crickets. They're all dressed to go to Sunday school.
Perfect. Hence the dress on the next one. Okay.
See, there you go. Exactly.
This is AI, right?
Yeah, of course it's AI. Of course it's AI.
You're making those little clothes, that little vest and jacket.
I am not at home sewing clothes for crickets. I'm
and
not
getting
that
it on
crazy.
The damn thing. That's the really hard part.
I'm not that crazy. I have other weird hobbies, but not that. So anyway, it goes on to say, sure, the Mormon cricket is just an insect, but that name, frankly, just bugs the heck out of one Utah lawmaker. It's introduced by Representative Doug Owens, and it would require that the Utah Department of Agriculture and Food petitions the Entomological Society of America. This is serious. It's not just a nickname. This is what this cricket is called, to assign the Anabras simplex a new common name, ideally one that is more respectful, inclusive, and accurately descriptive. And I should say right now, it's not even really a cricket. It's a cicady.
It's not really a Mormon either.
And it's not really a Mormon. Exactly. So what's wrong with the current name? Well, for one, the flightless bug known for its voracious appetite is not actually a cricket, like I just mentioned. It's a cicades. For another, the leaders of Utah's predominant faith, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, has invested a great deal in recent years to cast off the Mormon moniker, as the senator points out in his bill. So as per the
Mormon
church,
Katie did.
The Mormon Katie did. We're going to go through some names. Some of you guys were very creative. So per the church's own style guide, right? If you haven't read the style guide, you should. It's pretty interesting. Mormon, when correctly used, is in proper names is okay, or as an adjective in such historical expressions as Mormon trail is permissible. Okay, so I read that. Mormon cricket is not okay. Mormon trail is okay. I reached out to one of my friends who is a longtime editor. This is not my real friend. She doesn't have 6 fingers. She has a normal amount of fingers, but it's supposed to represent an editor. She said, nope, that's the same thing. Mormon trail, Mormon cricket. There's no difference in usage. Yeah, exactly. So the church's own style guide says this is okay. You're making a mountain out of a cricket hill. So they're asking the question, might the same apply to scientific identifiers? Either way, Owens is committed to the cause, explaining that the problem is in the specific pairing of Mormon, and then the term is paired with cricket, which is regarded as a pest.
Well, what about Mormon missionaries? Many people regard them as pests.
Regarded as a pest. I know. This whole thing, it makes me wonder what they're doing in the legislature. And we're going to get into that in a minute. So people refer to it so pejoratively, the Latter-day Saint Democrat said, that it feels like a slur, right?
You mean it's hurting the cricket's feelings?
I maybe the cricket or maybe the Mormons. I'm not sure.
Are those crickets choosing to be offended?
I've never been called a Mormon cricket, so I don't really know how anybody would react. So anyway, then they interview somebody who's an entomologist at the Utah State University, and he talks about the idea that when it's a beloved nickname, right? It makes people more kind of connected to the species, if that makes sense. Common names, the bee, the wasp expert argues, are reflective of the relationship that these communities have with the organisms. Change them, and you change people's connection to the bug or bird or whatever it might be. The Mormon cricket, Wilson argued, is a prime example. So it's a beloved name. It's a name that everybody is familiar with. We want to get more comfortable with the cricket, like in my picture here. Take it out for a beer, right? Let's get to know these crickets.
Especially if it's your AI companion.
That's right. Again, I just question, what are they doing in the Utah legislature? Oh my gosh. So of course,
obviously Utah has no other problems to deal with.
No, this is what I feel like, because remember what we covered last week? The bundt cakes. We're going to have an update on that. So I threw it out there. What should the new name be? And I thought these were great. Absolutely. So, and a lot of these are duplicates. People came up with some of the same things, but boy, are they creative. If it can't be the Mormon cricket, could it be the cricket of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints? That seems pretty obvious, right? That's the style guide right there. Stripling cricket, victory cricket for a victory for Satan, the Nelson cricket. I think you would probably like that quite a bit. The crickets at Temple Square. I like that one too, only when they're performing something though. Brigham's bitch cricket. Not sure where that came from, but I kind of like it. Ass hoppers. Okay. The anti-Nephi hoppers. Victory for Satan cicady. Latter-day cricket. Jesus jumpers. Jumpin' Jehovah. Let's see. Codge-Cold's cricket, which is an acronym for the Church of Jesus Christ. Jiminy cricket. I came up with that one because Mormons love Disney so much, right?
Taken.
It is taken. That's probably true. It is taken. The beehive cricket, the cult cricket. There's a good one. The cricket formerly known as Mormon. I like that one right there. Mountain Meadows cricket, Latter-day locust, Jesus H cricket.
That's good.
I'm telling you, these guys are very, and I'm guessing some of these names came from some of the people in the chat, because that's our group here. Covenant cricket, Brigham's bug, angel cricket with a flaming sword, Zion cricket, or pioneer cricket. So anyway, put your own name, your own guess in the chat.
It looks like the one on the left is a baby. Is that a baby cricket?
It probably is a baby cricket.
And the one on the right
is going on safari.
The one on the right looks like Indiana cricket.
Yeah, Indiana cricket. Anyway, lots of fun you can have with this